Welcome to the Global Warwatch Network. Today we're tackling a huge development, really asking a monumental question. Israel plans a full takeover of Gaza City. Is this the final push in what's been a long, brutal conflict, or are we actually seeing the start of an even deeper crisis? And crucially, what does this really aggressive new strategy mean for the hostages still trapped inside Gaza? The stakes, well, they couldn't be higher right now. Understanding all the layers here is just crucial if you want to be genuinely informed.
That's absolutely right. This feels different, doesn't it? Not just another phase, but potentially a real inflection point. And the nuances, like you said, are more critical than ever. Every single decision, every move in the coming days, it has these immediate and frankly far-reaching consequences for millions. Our goal today really is try and dissect these complexities for you, help you grasp not just what is happening, but the why behind it, and maybe most importantly, the what now. Where does this leave everyone involved?
Exactly. So let's outline what we'll be exploring today. We're going to carefully unpack Israel's intensified military plans for Gaza City. Plans that, well, they seem poised to have a devastating impact on an already incredibly dire humanitarian situation. Then we'll look at the intense international pressure that's building on really all sides. We'll highlight some key voices, key concerns from around the world. And then, yes, crucially, we'll get into those incredibly complex, very delicate ceasefire negotiations happening, behind the scenes. We'll explore the surprising, maybe challenging framework that seems to be on the table right now. The aim here is to pull out the most vital insights from this really rapidly changing situation, give you a clear picture.
A clear picture of a very volatile situation. That's the goal.
Okay, let's start with the big news. The headline from Friday, August 8th, 2025. Israel's announced plan to take over Gaza City. Now, for anyone following this 22-month war with Hamas closely, this doesn't sound like just another operation. It signals a massive escalation, right? A strategic shift that feels fundamentally different.
It absolutely is different. And the language, the terminology they're using is key. A takeover. That's not just about, targeted raids or clearing a few blocks. When Israel uses that specific term takeover, it signals a declared intention for potentially a long-term presence. It implies a fundamental shift in control, maybe even military governance over Gaza City itself.
Right.
This goes way beyond the sort of temporary in and out things we've seen before, or even the initial ground offensive aimed at dismantling Hamas infrastructure. It suggests a strategic goal to permanently remove Hamas's operational capacity and control in that specific urban center. Maybe even establish some kind of enduring security presence.
Okay.
The language indicates a commitment that seems much deeper than previous engagements, a desire for a more definitive, lasting change.
That distinction is huge. A temporary operation versus a declared takeover.
Yeah.
So if it's such a profound shift, what's driving it? What are the core reasons? Is it purely military, just neutralize Hamas? Or are there deeper strategic, maybe political reasons at play, both domestic and international?
That's where it gets really interesting. On the surface, Prime Minister Netanyahu, he's been pretty consistent since October 7th. His stated goals to assure our security and remove Hamas there. These are, long-held public goals.
We've heard them before.
Exactly. But it's worth remembering he has hinted at even broader aims in the past, talked about taking control of all of Gaza. So this current decision by the Security Cabinet, focusing specifically on Gaza City, while it's still a massive escalation, it could be a tactical shift within that larger strategy, maybe. It might be a response to different pressures, internal politics within his coalition, the intense international outcry over the humanitarian crisis, especially in the South, or maybe it's a way to consolidate gains without committing to the frankly overwhelming task of fully reoccupying the entire strip right now.
Right. That would be a huge undertaking.
Immense. So focusing on Gaza City, it strikes at the heart of Hamas's perceived power. They might believe it's the most impactful target right now.
So just to clarify, this targeted takeover of Gaza City, it might not be the final goal itself, but more like leverage.
That's a very real possibility.
A way to achieve something else. Sounds like a classic, if brutal, strategic move.
Precisely. This escalation could absolutely be aimed strategically at pressuring Hamas to accept a ceasefire on Israel's terms. Military action, especially declaring a takeover of a key city like Gaza City, it's powerful leverage in negotiations. Controversial, yes, but powerful.
Right.
The thinking might be, by raising the cost for Hamas, by threatening their last major urban stronghold, maybe Israel can force them to the table, force them to concede on key points, especially, the release of hostages.
Okay.
We've seen this tactic before in conflicts. Military advances used to improve your bargaining position. It puts immense pressure on Hamas's leadership, both inside Gaza facing the threat and those outside negotiating.
I see.
They face losing not just bases, but their perceived control over a major population center. That could seriously undermine their legitimacy, their future capabilities.
And how has Hamas reacted? What's their response to this declared takeover? What does it tell us about their resolve? What kind of fight might Israel expect?
Well, Hamas was quick to dismiss it. They put out a pretty defiant statement. Let me quote it directly. "Expanding of aggression against our Palestinian people will not be a walk in the park."
Not a walk in the park.
Yeah. It's not just rhetoric. It signals, continued resolve and, frankly, potential for sustained, maybe even more desperate resistance. Not a walk in the park implies they intend to make any takeover incredibly costly for Israel.
So, intense urban warfare.
That's the implication. Hamas fighters know the terrain intimately. They likely have extensive tunnel networks, booby-trapped buildings, ambush tactics prepared, and they've shown a willingness to operate within civilian areas, which of course massively complicates any military operation and increases the risk to non-combatants. It's a defiant message. They won't give up Gaza City easily. It underlines the huge challenges Israel faces in establishing long-term control. It also suggests they're prepared for a long, bloody fight, even if it means more devastation for the people there.
Which brings up another critical layer. The nuances within Israel itself. We're hearing about internal reservations, maybe even dissent about this plan. Can you elaborate on that? What are the implications if the military leadership itself has concerns?
Yes, this is a really crucial detail. It highlights the immense pressure inside the Israeli decision-making process. Reports suggest Israel's military chief of staff, Lieutenant General Eyal Zamir, issued some significant warnings about expanding into Gaza City.
Warnings about what specifically?
Primarily two things. First, that expanding the operation would endanger the remaining living hostages. And second, that it would further strain Israel's army after, remember, nearly 2 years of continuous regional conflict.
Wow. Those are serious warnings from the top military figure.
Absolutely. The implications are profound. A military chief doesn't issue warnings like that lightly. It speaks to the recognition of huge operational difficulties, potentially catastrophic outcomes. For the hostages, a major urban assault in a dense area makes rescue incredibly complex. It raises the risk of accidental casualties from either side. And militarily, after 22 months, the IDF faces significant fatigue, maybe resource issues, and they still need readiness on multiple fronts, like the northern border.
Right.
Pushing for a major urban assault now carries substantial risks, not just for this mission, but for the Army's long-term readiness. It's a stark reminder that even within the military, there are voices prioritizing the human cost, the strategic sustainability, and that council can clash with political goals.
Creates real internal friction, I imagine. And this brings us directly and painfully to that central agonizing issue, the hostages. It's just a grim reminder of October 7th, 2023. 251 people abducted from Israel. Most have been released in previous deals, but a critical, heartbreaking number is still there.
That's right. And the numbers are stark. They weigh so heavily on Israeli society. Of those 251 people taken, around 50 hostages are still believed to be inside Gaza. And even more tragically, based on intelligence recovery of remains, Israel currently believes only around 20 of those 50 are still alive.
Only 20.
Just 20. These aren't just numbers. They're individuals with families, futures. Their fate hangs in the balance. Their captivity is this constant source of immense pressure on the Israeli government, fueling public demands for their return, shaping strategy.
And how does this plan, this takeover of Gaza City, directly impact the safety, the potential return of these remaining individuals, especially those 20 or so living hostages? It must be an unimaginable weight for the decision makers.
This is exactly where General Zamir's warning hits home so hard. It illuminates this terrible moral and strategic dilemma. A major ground operation in a place like Gaza City, dense, heavily fortified, Hamas deeply entrenched, it exponentially raises fears for the safety of those 20 or so living hostages.
How so? What are the specific risks?
Well, imagine the chaos. Intense street fighting. Combatants and civilians often hard to distinguish. Every building a potential stronghold, every alley a potential trap. the risk of unintended casualties just skyrockets, whether from Israeli fire in the heat of battle or Hamas's own actions.
Right.
Hostages could be moved quickly into even more dangerous spots, used as human shields perhaps, or simply caught in the crossfire. It creates this almost unbearable pressure on Israeli leaders, torn between the military goal to dismantle Hamas and the profound moral need to bring their citizens home alive.
And for the families.
Oh, for the families. Every intensified military action must feel like a terrifying gamble, fearing that the very efforts meant to achieve security could inadvertently seal the fate of their loved ones. Trying to conduct such an operation while also trying to locate and rescue hostages, possibly hidden in that vast tunnel network. The complexity is almost insurmountable. This tension, this clash between military aims and humanitarian outcomes, it's really the defining tragic feature of this phase.
If the hostage situation is agonizing, the humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza, it's just overwhelming. Can you paint a clearer picture for us? What's the reality on the ground now? The reports just seem to get grimmer.
Catastrophic is unfortunately the right word. It's a landscape of immense suffering, widespread destruction, devastation on an unprecedented scale after 22 months. We're talking tens of thousands killed. Gaza's health ministry puts the number over 61,000 Palestinians. That includes combatants and civilians, the majority women and children.
61,000.
Beyond the deaths, most of Gaza's population, around 2.3 million people, they've been displaced, forced to flee again and again, living in overcrowded, often unsanitary conditions, tents, makeshift shelters. Vast areas are just gone, rubble. Entire neighborhoods unrecognizable. Basic infrastructure, water, sewage, power, mostly non-existent. And critically, the territory has been pushed towards famine, a horrifying reality for hundreds of thousands.
Oh, man, yes.
Food, clean water, medical supplies are desperately scarce. The struggle against disease, against starvation, it's a daily, harrowing reality for everyone there.
You mentioned the Gaza Health Ministry figures, over 61,000. That number often comes up. Can you explain why bodies like the UN, independent experts, consider those figures reliable, even though they come from the Hamas-run government and Israel disputes them?
It's a fair question, and it's about understanding data collection in a war zone. The Gaza Health Ministry, yes, it operates under Hamas administration, but it's staffed largely by medical professionals, public servants. They follow established protocols for recording casualties mostly. They gather data directly from hospitals, morgues, first responders. The UN, the World Health Organization, various independent human rights groups, they have their own methods for cross-referencing, validating information, on-the-ground checks, statistical analysis, and they've consistently found the ministry's figures to be the most reliable estimate available under the circumstances.
Even if they don't differentiate combatants from civilians in the main count.
Right. That's a key point of contention for Israel. The figures don't always make that distinction in the headline number, though sometimes more detailed breakdowns are available. But the consistency, the detail, the sheer volume of data coming from this network of medical facilities, it lends it significant credibility. And importantly, Israel, while disputing the figures, hasn't offered its own comprehensive alternative toll, which reinforces the reliance on the ministry's data by international bodies trying to grasp the human cost.
I see.
It doesn't mean the data is perfect, obviously. Independent verification is incredibly hard, incredibly dangerous there. But these figures are seen as the best available indicator of the immense human toll.
So, given this already desperate reality, what are the expected immediate human costs of this new offensive into Gaza City? It sounds like it can only make things worse.
It's expected to exacerbate an already unimaginable crisis on pretty much every level. A major ground operation in a dense urban center like Gaza City will almost certainly displace tens of thousands more people. Many residents there had already fled south earlier. Some maybe returned when fighting eased. Now they face displacement again.
Constant upheaval.
Exactly. And this constant forced movement, plus the ongoing destruction of homes, infrastructure, it means humanitarian aid efforts get further disrupted. It becomes even harder to deliver food, water, medicine to a territory already, as we said, on the brink of famine.
Right.
Aid logistics are tough, even in quieter periods. During active combat in dense urban areas, roads destroyed, supply lines cut, it becomes nearly impossible, leading to more suffering, more starvation, and, of course, direct and indirect civilian casualties are expected to rise significantly in that kind of intense urban fighting.
And we've seen these horrifying reports, civilians killed just trying to get help, trying to get basic supplies. Can you give us some vivid details, the dangers they face even seeking aid? What does that tell us about the level of desperation?
The reality is truly horrific. It reflects profound desperation. Just on Thursday, August 7th, according to local hospitals, at least 42 Palestinians were killed in Israeli airstrikes and shootings across Gaza.
42 in one day.
And what's particularly agonizing, at least 13 of those were reportedly seeking aid. In an Israeli military zone, the Marag Corridor down in southern Gaza.
Seeking aid in a military zone.
Yes. The Marag Corridor is this strategic route, a buffer zone maybe, set up by Israeli forces. Reports say independent media can't access it freely, and it's become this flashpoint where UN aid convoys are often overwhelmed by desperate, hungry crowds. People sometimes try to steal food just out of sheer necessity.
Imagine that choice.
Exactly. Risk your life in a military zone under threat of fire trying to get food, or face starvation. It's an impossible situation. And on the same day, another incident. 2 people reportedly killed on roads leading towards sites run by the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation.
That's the Israeli-backed American contractor.
Yes, they're working to facilitate aid, often under incredibly dangerous conditions. GHF said there were no violent incidents at their sites that day, but it just underscores the danger of simply moving around, trying to get help anywhere in Gaza.
It paints a terrifying picture.
It does, and it brings to mind that quote from Maisa al-Hayla, a Palestinian woman in a displacement camp. She said, hauntingly, "There is nothing left to occupy. There is no Gaza left."
Wow.
That quote just conveys the utter despair, the sense of complete annihilation, the psychological toll. It's a testament to the destruction, the feeling among people that their very existence is being erased, makes further military action almost incomprehensible from their perspective.
With the situation spiraling like this, it's really no surprise that international pressure is mounting significantly. How is the global community reacting to these plans for Gaza City? What's the wider discord we're seeing play out diplomatically?
Well, what's quite striking is how this planned escalation could really widen the gap between Israel and key international powers, even its traditional allies. Criticism of the war has been growing for months, right? Especially with these widespread, credible reports of famine conditions emerging in Gaza.
That's been a major point of concern.
A huge one. It alarms the global community deeply. It potentially constitutes a violation of international humanitarian law if aid is deliberately blocked. So many nations are watching this escalation with growing concern. Fearing a full assault on Gaza City pushes things past the point of no return. More civilian deaths, more displacement.
And this isn't just condemnation. It could have real consequences.
It could. It's about the potential for diplomatic isolation for Israel, a fracturing of alliances, a shift in global public opinion, especially in Western nations that have historically provided significant support. The sheer scale of the suffering is forcing governments to rethink their positions, weigh the costs of inaction or unqualified support.
So repercussions like UN resolutions, changes in aid, even sanctions.
Those are all potential outcomes, yes. It really depends on how far things escalate and how sustained the international pressure becomes.
We've heard some pretty strong words lately, not just from expected critics, but from nations usually closer to Israel. Can you give us specific examples of this heightened concern, and what impact might those statements actually have?
Absolutely. We've seen both Australia and the United Kingdom, close allies of the U.S. and Israel, explicitly urge Israel to reconsider this decision. And the British Prime Minister, Keir Starmer, made a remarkably strong statement. He called Israel's decision wrong and said it will only bring more bloodshed.
Wrong, that's direct.
Very direct. And he didn't stop there. He urged both parties to step away from the path of destruction. You can't really underestimate the weight of statements like that from close allies. It signals a significant shift in the international mood. It puts considerable pressure on Israel to justify its actions, to seriously look at alternatives.
So not just symbolic gestures.
I don't think so. They reflect genuine, growing worry about regional stability, the humanitarian crisis, the long-term fallout for global security, and frankly, for Israel's own standing. These public rebukes can lead to diplomatic friction, affect votes at the UN, maybe even influence military aid or political support down the line.
Okay, beyond the West, what about reactions within the Middle East itself? Are regional powers also concerned? How does that shape what they're doing?
That's a really important piece of the puzzle, the regional dynamic. Major Arab Gulf monarchies, think key players like Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Qatar. They are indeed backing the ongoing ceasefire efforts with, it seems, increased urgency.
Why the urgency now?
Their concern is explicitly tied to the potential for further regional destabilization if Israel fully reoccupies Gaza. Remember, Israel pulled out unilaterally 2 decades ago. A full reoccupation now could be seen as highly provocative across the Arab world. It could potentially ignite widespread anger, maybe increase radicalization, cause significant refugee flows into neighboring countries like Egypt or Jordan.
And risk a wider conflict.
Exactly, risk drawing other regional actors in. Plus, these monarchies have huge economic interests tied to regional stability. An expanded war jeopardizes all that. So their involvement in mediation, it's driven by a clear desire to de-escalate diplomatically, to prevent a wider fire that harms everyone, including their own security and economy. They're trying to find an off-ramp.
Which brings us squarely to those diplomatic efforts. These ongoing, often quiet attempts to find a path to peace amidst the escalating violence. What's the current state of these crucial ceasefire negotiations?
Well, what's fascinating, maybe counterintuitive, is that even with this intense military escalation, mediators from Egypt and Qatar are actively working on a new framework for a comprehensive deal. And this isn't just tinkering around the edges. It's being described as an all-or-nothing approach.
All or nothing.
Yeah, and it's reportedly backed by those major Gulf monarchies we just mentioned. They seem to believe a comprehensive approach is the only way to get lasting peace, not just another temporary truce that falls apart. It signals a serious, concerted effort to find a definitive end to this round of fighting.
All or nothing sounds incredibly ambitious, especially given the deep mistrust. What does that actually mean? What are the core elements?
It means exactly that, a high-stakes gamble for a final resolution. The core idea is the simultaneous release of all hostages, both alive and deceased, in one go.
All of them together.
In exchange for an end to the war in Gaza and the withdrawal of Israeli forces from the Strip. It's a monumental ask for both sides. Huge concessions.
Absolutely.
For Israel. Halt operations, give up territory they fought hard for without maybe a guaranteed future security setup.
What?
For Hamas, release all their leverage, the hostages, and potentially give up their control of Gaza as the war ends. The all-or-nothing part is designed to force a decisive break, prevent partial deals that leave core issues simmering, ready to reignite conflict, which has been the pattern.
Right, we've seen that cycle.
So it's a complex package trying to tackle the biggest issues all at once.
That sounds like a massive hurdle, especially the history between them. And what about that sticking point? Hamas's weapons. Israel wants full disarmament. Hamas refuses. How does this framework handle that?
Yes. This is one of the thorniest issues. And frankly, this part of the proposal raises huge practical, political challenges. Israel insists on full disarmament. They see Hamas's arsenal, rockets, guns, explosives as an existential threat. It must go for long-term security.
Understandable from their perspective.
But Hamas sees its weapons as essential for defense, for their political survival, as leverage. They've consistently refused to disarm. So the proposed compromise here is freezing arms.
Freezing arms, what does that mean?
It means Hamas would apparently retain its weapons but commit to not using them, put them in a state of indefinite dormancy, essentially.
That sounds difficult to enforce.
Extremely. How do you verify a freeze in an urban area full of tunnels and hidden caches? Who monitors it impartially? What are the immediate severe consequences for violations? Who enforces them?
Right, the trust just isn't there.
Exactly. The level of trust needed for that, given the deep, entrenched mistrust, it's incredibly high, maybe unappeasable. Without robust international oversight, a clear enforcement mechanism, real buy-in, this freeze risks being a short-term fix. It leaves the underlying issue of armed groups unresolved. Could lead to renewed conflict later. It's an attempt to bridge a gap, but its practicality seems highly questionable without massive international commitment and a fundamental change in dynamic.
Okay, let's connect this to the bigger picture then. Assuming, hypothetically, the war ends, Israeli forces withdraw. What's the vision for governing Gaza afterwards? Who steps in to rebuild, maintain order?
This is absolutely critical for any long-term stability, and maybe the most complex part of the framework. The proposed vision is sort of multi-layered, transitional. It starts with a Palestinian Arab committee to run Gaza and oversee reconstruction efforts, an interim body focusing on immediate needs, the huge rebuilding task.
Okay, temporary. Then what?
Then, the proposal suggests a new Palestinian administration with a new police force trained by 2 U.S. allies in the Middle East would take over. This implies a big international effort to build capacity for governance, for security.
But what about the Palestinian Authority? The one in the West Bank?
Well, that's where there's significant ambiguity. The proposal is unclear on the exact role of the PA, which, remember, has limited legitimacy or presence in Gaza since Hamas took over back in 2007, establishing a new, effective police force from scratch, trained by outsiders, ensuring a new administration gains the trust of Gazans. It's an enormous task.
Huge challenges, political, security, logistical.
Absolutely. It needs more than just an end to fighting. It needs a detailed roadmap for governance, security, economic recovery. One that addresses the fractured Palestinian politics and the needs of the Gazan people. Any ceasefire success really hinges on a credible, supported plan for what comes next, for replacing the chaos with stability.
So the U.S. is clearly involved here, giving weight to this all-or-nothing idea. We heard a U.S. envoy mention this to hostage families.
Yes, that's right. The U.S. envoy, Steve Witkoff, reportedly indicated to hostage families during a recent visit that Israel is pursuing this comprehensive all-or-nothing approach. That confirms it's not just a mediator's idea, it has significant backing, especially from the U.S. It seems to be gaining traction, at least as a serious negotiating strategy.
And the U.S. role is crucial.
Absolutely. Lending weight, given its relationship with Israel and influence in the region, the U.S. would likely be key in providing guarantees, security assurances, maybe financial incentives needed for both sides to agree to something this far-reaching. Especially on post-conflict governance and reconstruction. Their involvement signals high-level commitment.
And Hamas, are they aware of these specific details? Or is this still being formulated before it gets to them?
According to a senior Hamas official speaking anonymously, of course, given the sensitivity, Hamas leadership is aware of these efforts by Arab mediators. They know attempts are underway to revive talks with a comprehensive deal. However, they have not yet received the full, granular details of this specific framework.
Oh, okay, so it's still in flux.
Exactly. It highlights how delicate, how opaque these negotiations often are. Information is tightly controlled. Proposals get floated, refined between mediators and principals before anything formal is presented. It indicates movement and understanding of the broad strokes, but we're far from a finalized agreement. Lots of back and forth, clarification, negotiation still needed before anything concrete is truly on the table for them to accept or reject. The situation is exceptionally fluid.
You know, one thing that's absolutely critical when trying to understand a conflict this complex, this massive, is how we get our information. The Associated Press, the AP, often comes up as a key source for factual reporting in these volatile situations. What makes them so central? How do they maintain credibility amidst so many conflicting claims?
Well, the Associated Press has a very clear stated identity, something they really strive to uphold. They define themselves as an independent global news organization dedicated to factual, accurate, and unbiased reporting. And that's not just, a mission statement on a wall. It's reflected in their structure. They have bureaus, reporters almost everywhere.
Right.
Their world section prominently features conflicts like Israel, Hamas, Ukraine, showing commitment to comprehensive global coverage.
Right.
But maybe even more importantly for credibility, especially today, with so much disinformation, they have a dedicated fact-check section.
I've seen that.
Yeah, it actively debunks misinformation on health, politics, you name it. That's a powerful testament to their commitment to fighting false narratives, providing verified information. In a conflict zone like Gaza, where narratives are intensely contested, propaganda is everywhere, access is restricted, having an organization dedicated to rigorous accuracy, impartiality, it's vital for public understanding.
And they have experience in this, right?
Yeah, decades of it. Reporting from conflict zones means they have established protocols, verification, sourcing, corroboration that helps them navigate the challenges of reporting from highly sensitive, dangerous places.
And how does that commitment to factual reporting connect back to, say, the humanitarian data we discussed, those casualty figures from Gaza? It's often hard for people to know what to believe when officials on different sides contradict each other.
It connects right to the heart of reliable conflict reporting. When AP reports on that data, specifically mentioning that the UN and independent experts view Gaza's health ministry figures as the most reliable estimate, that shows how reputable organizations work. They don't just report the raw number, they contextualize it. They cite the validation from international bodies like the UN, which have their own people, their own methods for assessing, cross-referencing information, often with medical professionals.
So it's about triangulation, multiple sources.
Exactly. Relying on multiple sources, cross-referencing, referencing expert validation. That's how they strive for accuracy in a volatile environment where official figures from warring parties are often met with skepticism. AP acts as a conduit for the best available information, even if that information is disputed by one side. It's about providing you, the listener, with the most credible data points they can find at that moment, allowing you to form an informed opinion based on validated facts, not just claims, which is crucial for understanding the true scale of the crisis.
Well, as we wrap up our discussion today, it's just abundantly clear. The situation in Gaza is incredibly complex, profoundly grave, and changing rapidly. Israel's plan to take Gaza City is without doubt a critical juncture, balancing these perceived military goals against a desperate, worsening humanitarian crisis, all while these fragile peace efforts somehow continue behind the scenes.
Indeed. And it leaves us with a really provocative thought, something for you to ponder as you process all this information. Given the immense human costs we've talked about, the tens of thousands killed, the displacement, the famine, the utter destruction, and considering the stated aims ensuring Israel's security, removing Hamas definitively, what might be the true long-term impact of a full takeover of Gaza City? Will it genuinely bring regional stability? Or could it, ironically, sow the seeds for even deeper resentment? Further radicalization in a traumatized population, renewed cycles of violence years from now, even if some ceasefire framework is eventually agreed upon. How might this moment, this decision to push for a takeover of Gaza City, fundamentally redefine the future, not just of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, but the broader regional landscape? It's a question that really challenges us to look beyond immediate tactics, consider the profound geopolitical, humanitarian, and, well, human legacy of such an action.
A heavy thought, certainly, but an essential one for understanding what's truly at stake here. Thank you for your time and insights today. It's been invaluable. And thank you, our listener, for joining us for this essential discussion. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the Global Warwatch Network. We also really encourage you to share your thoughts in the comment section below and join us on social media. All the links are provided right there in the description. Your engagement helps us continue bringing you these vital conversations.